Hi, Tracey. So thank you so much for not only joining us today, but for the series of interviews that we've been doing. And so today we're going to be talking about breathwork for women. You're a functional breathwork instructor. So before we start with the content, can you just explain to us a little bit about functional breathwork and what that means?
Yes, and it's lovely to be back with you, Rachel. So functional breathwork is focused on two things. It's the blood chemistry, in other words, how carbon dioxide and oxygen interact in our blood. And secondly, biomechanics of the body. So how our bodies move when we breathe in terms of our breathing muscles, as well as our skeleton, and the impact that that has on the nervous system and the brain.
Perfect. So you're helping people to breathe in a better way and help their blood chemistry to be better as well then with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so this video is about women, but we're all humans, we're all adults. Surely men and women breathe the same, don't they?
Well, to answer that question, interestingly, it would be no. Women actually have lower ventilation than men because of the smaller size of our respiratory systems, and our diaphragms, in fact, are 9% shorter.
Wow.
So that has a major impact on how we breathe.
So it's not just in proportion to our size then. So, and if your diaphragm's shorter, then that means our lungs can't open up as much then, from what you're saying. Is that correct? There's not so much movement.
No, we would still have the same movement because it's relative to the size of the body.
Okay.
It's just that, for example, and I can compare this to my sport, which is free diving, men can generally hold their breath for longer because they have a larger lung capacity. So it doesn't down-regulate what women can achieve. We just do it on a smaller level.
Okay, yeah. And so what impact do our hormones have on our breathing?
Well, hormones have a major impact on women's breathing. As we move through life, pregnancy, the monthly menstrual cycle, moving into menopause, progesterone, the sex hormone, will reduce over time. And that also fluctuates during menstruation and during pregnancy. And when that happens, that has an impact on our breathing. And we actually tend to hyperventilate, even though we may not consciously be aware of it. Our heart rate, our breathing rate will increase. And the impact of progesterone changes in the body will indicate maybe feeling like you want to take in more air, like you're not getting enough into the lungs. Your pain perception will increase, fatigue increases, and you may feel more anxious or stressed during the day.
So from knowing then progesterone levels can have an impact, can breathing change your progesterone levels, or just with awareness, then we can know that we need to maybe focus in on our breathing and breathing in a better way?
Becoming more self-aware is really important, because when you are aware that these situations will take place and the body you'll have a physiological response to this, you can input preventative measures by changing your breathing patterns. I think there's a lot of negativity around women going into the menopause, and I think that needs to be changed in terms of how people view it, because we can actually take back control of our health through understanding our breathing rhythms. And that can really empower you as a woman going forward, knowing that you're giving yourself the best chance to function at a high level without feeling completely impacted all the time, because the progesterone levels are shifting. What I would suggest is for women to understand functional breathing patterns that are input on a regular basis will have a positive impact on the body. So regardless of whether you are going through your monthly cycle or in a different phase of life, learning how to breathe correctly using the nose with diaphragmatic activation and actually reducing your breathing volume down can change the blood chemistry in the body and can also change the way the respiratory muscles move. So, for example, there's been a lot of medical research that's coming out connecting women's health to breathing and how the hormone impacts that. So, for example, during the menstrual cycle, progesterone will stimulate breathing more during days 10 to 22 of your cycle, which is called the luteal phase. And during that time, if you are asthmatic, you're going to feel more breathless, or may perhaps need to use your pump more. And by knowing that that is potentially going to happen, you can practice these breathing exercises to slow your breathing rate down and bring yourself back and rebalance the nervous system. Other more severe...
I was just going to say that's really powerful information, because you wouldn't necessarily relate being more breathless to where you are in your menstrual cycle. It's quite a revelation, I think. Sorry. Yeah.
In fact, if your carbon dioxide levels actually drop by 25% during this time.
That's massive.
And that is massive. And that additional stress is what causes us to breathe more or hyperventilate, and the pain thresholds are lowered. And that's called, as we know, premenstrual syndrome. Actually being able to use these techniques during that period can significantly reduce the impact on the body. Other areas of interest, for example, fibromyalgia. Dysfunctional breathing aggravates the pain associated with fibromyalgia, particularly the pelvic floor area. So by implementing functional breathing pattern training, it can take, for some patients, 3 to 6 months to reduce the impact, but it can reduce the impact. And that's the key. There is another solution. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a standalone solution. I say to individuals, if they are having treatment, they're on medication, continue with that, but add these functional breathwork patterns into your treatment to help the body to heal.
And that's it. When you know that the timeline is potentially going to be that 3 to 6 months, it makes it a lot easier, because you already have the context in mind for how long that process might be as well, as far as being able to continue with the breathing exercises or breathing techniques that will help.
And I think it's important to mention, everybody is different. So for someone that might take 2 months, for someone else it might take 6 months. But I think when you are in a situation where you're dealing with daily discomfort and pain, finding a natural solution to ease that is just, again, really empowering and gives women a lot of hope that there are solutions out there.
Very much, definitely. And how else can we incorporate breathing techniques then to help women's health, women's quality of life?
Well, I'd like to come back to menopause, purely because, this is not just because it's topical, but there's a lot of information now that's being shared that wasn't shared before. And when women go into the menopause, there's a recent study done in 2020 found a strong connection between early menopause and reduced lung function. So actually being able to improve your lung function through these functional breathing exercises is crucial to improve your lung health for longevity. So it's a much bigger story than just a standalone symptom or discomfort or some kind of issue that you're dealing with. It has a massive impact on your life going forward.
Very much, definitely. And well, menopause is just a huge area, isn't it? And what strikes me is that with the breathing and the learning better ways of breathing, it actually helps us as women through all stages of our life, everything.
Very much so.
Yeah, definitely. And one area that just springs to mind is women who experience chronic pain, pelvic pain. Can breathwork help with that as well or not?
It definitely can. The pelvic floor and the diaphragm are structurally connected by the psoas muscle, which is our main hip flexor muscle. And any dysfunction here is going to impact on the stability of the spine and how we breathe. So women with chronic pelvic pain will typically breathe in the upper chest. So normalizing imbalances in the joints and the tissues, along with breathing pattern training, can actually relieve and potentially eliminate chronic pelvic floor pain. So again, this is based on evidence, medical research, trials that have been done where breathing techniques can be implemented next to clinical treatment to help women to find solutions.
Excellent. And is that similar to fibromyalgia in that it can be 3 to 6 months, or is there any information on timeline with that?
There's no timeline on this. I think it's very particular to the individual. The previous, the fibromyalgia study was done with a group of patients and a doctor implementing these techniques over that time period. So that's why they were able to use that as a sample.
And so earlier on, you mentioned about particularly focusing on breathing in certain parts of our menstrual cycle, but also breathwork being important for all elements of women's health. So how much of a bind is it relearning how you're breathing? Is it something that's going to take a long time in every single day?
I think it really depends on how much time you want to put into this. You know, what we're asking people to do here is to create new habits. And as you know, it's very difficult, but changing human behavior and the motivation, if you are struggling with pain, then you are motivated to change that situation. But if you are feeling fairly healthy, you know, not had any severe issues in terms of your health, it can feel like less of a priority. My message really is we are all going to age and the body will change. But if you can keep your lungs strong and the supporting respiratory muscles strong, you're going to have a much better chance of fighting off infection, dealing with pain, and difficult symptoms associated with health as we move through our life. So it really is a choice that you make about whether you want to have that option or not. And I really hope that people do choose to pursue that.
You know, that's interesting as well, because as you say, aging is inevitable. We're all going to. And part of that, moving into menopause as well. And just from a like a webinar that I was listening to recently, is so often we forget that the approach into menopause is the kind of the signs or the clues as to how our menopause might then be. So, for example, you're mentioning PMS, that if you're getting that, then actually addressing your breathing now may make your menopause transition so much easier as well. So yeah, sometimes if the signs are there, or even just breathing in a better way for health, then there's no time like the present to get going.
We can change our breathing patterns every day. As I said before, it's self-awareness. So focusing on nasal breathing is step one, avoiding mouth breathing. But then when people work with me and we do these very specific exercises, they aren't taking hours and hours. You know, you can do up to, 2.5 minutes to 15 minutes a day. But again, it's what motivates you to want to make those changes. And essentially, it's a lifestyle change. So if you can incorporate tiny little micro habits into your day-to-day, the long-term benefits are phenomenal.
Definitely, like I say, 2.5 minutes a day, then yeah, hopefully we can commit to that. And you mentioned ways that people can work with you. Can you just explain a little bit about that if somebody's watching today and thinking, okay, I'd like to make a start, make some changes?
Well, I'm very open to having conversations on social media, so people can DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn under my name, which is Tracey Howes. And I know we have links with the video.
They'll all be below. Yeah.
They can book in for a free consultation on Zoom. We can have a video chat or a phone call just to understand what they're looking for and if the course that I teach is right for them. I work one-to-one. I work in small groups, in person and on Zoom. So there really is a number of ways that we can work together and connect.
And because you also have some taster sessions as well, don't you? And like I say, then we'll have all of that information below this video, so that if somebody would like to find out more, then they'll be able to find all the information that they need as well. So
yes,
thank you so much, Tracey. I've learned as well during this short interview, and I hope others have as well. So thank you so much for your time, and it's been great.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you very much.
Remember to subscribe to our channel or visit itsallabouthealth.co.uk for more ways to improve your health naturally.